Hello everybody, welcome to the tutor squad. Hope you're all doing well. We will just wait 5 minutes to allow everyone to just hop in. And then we will get started today looking at Pygame. So let's just wait for everyone to drop in. Hello. Hi there, Adam, nice to see you again. Just to let you know, guys, this will start at 5 past, so you've got plenty of time to hop on in, get yourself a drink, strap yourselves in, because we're going to do some Python today. Also, this is something I want to mention. I will mention this again when everyone's joined us, but for this particular session, could everyone please use Replit? The reason is because we're using Pygame today, and you can technically use this on any IDE. You can use it on Idle, you can use it on PyCharm, you can use it on anything. However, with Replit, it means that anyone can use it because it's on a browser, and two, there is no installation stuff required, which will just save my soul. So if you wouldn't mind everyone using Replit, just search into Google. Replit is the first one that comes up. You'll need to make an account, so you'll need an email and a password. So if everyone could create that, that would be wonderful. I will mention this again at the start of the session, but yes, Replit. We're using Replit today, so please do that. Everyone who is just joining, if you wouldn't mind just quickly saying hello in the chat so I know that you're there, that would be great. And yeah, we'll get started at 5 past. Hello there, Anonymous17. Hello there, Harry. Nice to see you again. Oh, whoops. Okay, just to let you know, guys, we are starting at 5 past today, so you've got plenty of time for you to get yourself all sorted, get your computer working, get your browser working, get Replit working, which is the thing that we're going to be using today. It's really cold today. I don't know how cold it is where everyone else is right now, but I'm currently in Scotland, and I don't know what the temperature is, but it feels like it's below freezing. I've just been using hot drinks to try and keep myself warm throughout the day, because it's Baltic. It is absolutely Baltic. Okay, that is 5 past, so we will get started, and then anyone who joins us along the way, we will catch them up. So, let's first of all get the presentation bar on the screen. Hang on. Okay. Can everyone see the presentation on the screen? Type yes in the chat if you can. Okay, we've got some yeses. That means you can see it. So, welcome back to my tutor coding squads. This is day 6 of the coding squads, and we are going to be moving on to doing something a little bit more fun, aka we're going to start to make some video games. But before we do, let's have a quick intro into what we're covering today. So, we're going to have, as we have every time last week, we are going to have a recap of what we did before, and today we're going to be looking at a video game making library called Pygame Zero. Any of you who've covered Pygame before, it's essentially that, but just an easier version. It's more education oriented, so that's why I chose that one. And then what are we going to do in Pygame? Well, we're going to learn how to load shapes, we're going to learn how to load images, we're going to learn some of the functions in Pygame, and we're going to try and do some activities together. So let's have a look at what we did in day 5. So for those of you who weren't in day 5, we looked at functions and the importance of functions and how we use them within code. We looked at the basic syntax of functions, how you start them with a def, and then the name of the function, and then finally open brackets, close brackets, colon, that's it. We also learned how to call a function. So you use the name of the function, and possibly if it has any parameters or arguments inside, you use those as well. And we saw how if you call a function, you can use all the code within the function. We also looked at how you return values from a function. So sometimes functions don't have any values returns at all, and sometimes you can get stuff out of the function, and that's called returning values. Then we made a Monster Hunter game, which totally wasn't based on anything else. So we tried to use 4 different functions, I believe. We used a main function, a function to get user input, a function to get computer input, and then a function to determine what the winner of the game was. So those of you who haven't seen day 5 before, I recommend you go to the playlist and find it. They're all recorded, all saved up on YouTube, so feel free to go have a watch of that. But without any further ado, on to day 6. So today we are going to be looking at something called Pygame Zero. So Pygame Zero is a game creation library, and it is based on the popular library Pygame. The reason why I chose this one, as I said before, is it's intended for education, so it's less complicated and requires less game mechanics. Now, installations. This has been a bit of a burden on this series, so to try and make things easier today, I please ask all of you who are watching to please use Replit, and I'll show you how to use Replit as we're going along. Replit, if you don't know, is an online browser IDE, so it means that you can create it from any computer, regardless of the make. You can use it on Google Chrome. It does work on Firefox as well. It means you can code on any device, even a tablet, if you want to code on that. And it has no installations necessary. So that makes everything a lot easier. If you are adamant about a particular type of IDE, let's say you're really into PyCharm or you're really into Idle, there is the command that you need to download the certain library in the description of this video. So if you go down, there'll be a description of how you can download it if you wish, but if you wouldn't mind saving yourself the trouble and using Replit today, that would be absolutely wonderful. So I will show you how to use it just now. So let me just get Replit up on my computer. So, this is the Replit website. It's very easy to find. You just search Replit into Google, and boom, you've got the website. And then what you need to do is you need to either sign up or log in. If you've got a Google account, this will make it a lot quicker. I'm going to move my head out of this so you can see where I mean. Yep, up there. Oh, up there. Sign up or log in. So I already got an account with Google, so I will just log in with my Google account. I'm going to hide the screen for this bit. And then once you've logged in, it brings you to this page here. This is your creation page, if you will. So once you're on this page, you can then create a workspace to work in. So you're going to click on the create button as you would normally in Replit. People who have done Replit before will probably be familiar to this. So you're going to click create. And then this is the important part. Once you click create, you're going to choose a specific template. Now, normally, if you're coding in Python, you choose the Python template, right? But for this one, I want you to search for the Pygame template. This works the best with Pygame, so please choose the Pygame template. Then you can give it any name you want. I'll call it my tutor day 6. Then you can call it whatever you like. And then once you've done that, you press create REPL, and that will create a IDE for you to work in. those of you who've seen idle, it's pretty much the same thing, but it just sorts it all out for you. So you've got your files here, you've got your console here, and you've got your main workings area here. It will have some imported code. Get rid of all of that, we don't need it. So that is basically how to start that. I'm going to stop talking for a sec while you guys get that sorted out. If you have any questions, let me know, and then we'll get started. Oh, and when you're happy for me to move on, let me know as well. And I'm going to move my head back down now. There we go. That should be good. Just out of interest, does anyone here use Replit? Because I know a few of you have before. Oh, okay. That's brilliant. A few people in the chat have said that they've used it. That's really reassuring, actually. Because, yeah, that's really good. I'm really happy that people actually know what this is and know how to use it. It saves me having to explain a lot of things. Gale is done, which is awesome. I will wait for one more minute and then I will move on. Okay, I will move on. Hopefully the instructions on how to use Replit and how to get it all up and working should be pretty clear. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So, going back to the presentation. So, once you've got Replit going, we can now actually look at setting up Pygame Zero. So, with the setup, there are a few different parts that we need to do, including determining the height and width of our console. So, imagine the game runs on like a separate window, like you would when you play a video game on your PC. We have to determine how many pixels that is going to be, and also if we're going to give it a title at all. So, I will show you how to do that now. So, going back to Pygame here, the first thing we need to do is we need to tell it the library that we're working in. So we're going to be using something called pgzero. That's the library. So if you type in import pgzero, and then at the bottom you type pgzrun.go, open bracket, close bracket. That's the first command you need. So this imports the Pygame Zero library, and then this is what you're going to have at the end of your code every single time to tell it, hey, the game's ready, let's run it. So if I run the console, what's going to happen is it's going to now download the pgzero library up onto Replit for me, which is quite nice because it means that I don't have to install it. So once it's finished installing, it's just going to bring up a blank console or an empty window. So we'll just wait for that to install. So once that's done, we'll get a output here. Some computers might take longer than others. So there we go. As you can see, sir, it's installing pgzero. That's what we want. And boom, we've got ourselves a blank console. So this output here, that's where our game is going to appear. So in the output here. So we've got ourselves a blank window. First thing we're going to do is we want to change the size of the window. And we can do that by setting these variables called width and height. So first thing we're going to do is after import pgzrun, I'm going to type in width. Now this has to be a capitalized width and capitalized height because these are reserved variables for that. So I'm going to do equals 450 and I'm going to do height. Remember to spell height correctly. All capitalized, and that's going to be 450 as well. So if I stop the program and rerun it, it will then change the size of my console. So as you can see, it's slightly smaller there. Sometimes that's necessary, sometimes that's not necessary. The next thing we need to do for setup is we also need to give our window a title. So as you see, currently it's got the name Pygame Zero game. It's probably better if we give it our own name, and that's also another reserved variable, and it's called title. So after width and height, you can write title equals, and then whatever you want to call the game. I'm going to call it the My Tutor coding game, but you can call it whatever you like. So if I run that code now, as you can see here at the top, it's changed to be My Tutor coding game. But you can call it your name, you can call it whatever you like. So that is basically how you set up a game. Once you guys are happy for me to move on, let me know. Hi Keela! Welcome back. Just to tell you what we've been doing so far, we are using Replit and we're using a library called Pygame Zero. So if you want to log on to Replit and make a REPL with Pygame as the template, you can join us. I've chosen to go for Pygame today just to stop any installations because I don't want to deal with them. Okay, and when you're done, folks, just let me know and I will move on. Okay, Isra says she's done. So I will move on. Anyone's got any questions while we're going, just let me know. But that is basically how you set it up. The next stage is looking at setting up the background. There's a few different functions that we can use to set up the background. So here are a few of them, and we're going to go through them now. So we've got screen.fill, which fills the background with a solid color, clear, which clears the screen, and BLIT, which will add an image to the screen. And we'll go through some of those just now. So to add a background, you need to come up with a color. These colors are set in RGB. Just as a quick question, has anyone ever heard of RGB before? Is this for GCSE Computer Science? Yes, this is still for GCSE Computer Science. We're just using a different program to learn stuff with. But yeah, has anyone ever heard of RGB colors before? Is an RGB red, green, blue? Yes, that is exactly right. Someone says, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. Well, good thing we're going to go through that now. So as someone in the comments correctly said, it stands for red, green, and blue. And this is how computers, or, well, science as well, how recognize colors. It's the colors of how light works. So we can find out what RGB colors by searching into Google color picker. And it comes up with this color picker here. So every single color can be organized into a red hue, a green hue, and a blue hue. So if I wanted my background to be kind of like a turquoisey color, that one's quite nice. At the bottom here, it's come up with RGB 84 of red, 209 of green, and 169 of blue. Does anyone know what the maximum numbers for RGB colors are? I wonder if anyone does. 400 is a good guess. 599, not quite. 255 is the correct answer. Well done. Oh, someone said I meant 500. Nope. 255 is the maximum number, and I believe that would be the color white. So if I bring it all the way up to the top here, as close as I can get it to white. Maybe I can change it now. So the highest color is white, and that's 255. If I go to the lowest color I can get, that will be black, and that will be 000. Or pretty close. I can't get it on this particular color picker. But yeah, if you want to search for color picker and find a lovely color for your background, again, I quite like this kind of duck egg color, if you will. And then you can copy the RGB values from here. Then if we go back to our replit, we can create a variable to color our background in. So I'm going to call this variable, unsurprisingly, background color. So background underscore color equals brackets 129, 204, 201, 178. Now if I run this code, currently the background is not going to change color because we haven't told it to change color. We've just stored a variable. So as you can see, when I run the code, no background change. Bit rubbish. Let's actually change the background. So the way that we do that is we use a function called defDraw. I'll go into a bit more about defDraw in just a sec. Hopefully you should all remember functions from last time, but we're going to use defDraw, open brackets, close brackets, comma. Then inside that function, you're going to write screen dot fill, and then the color that you want your background to be, aka background color. Stop and run. And ta-da! We've made the background. Why do we leave a gap between each command? That is just so I can see it better. You really do not. You could have it completely ungapped if you wanted, and it would still run the exact same way. I just do it because I like it. I like having white space in between it. But if you prefer not to, that's totally fine. Okay, there's a few more things that we need to know when it comes to the background, not just fill in the background color. There's this command here, which is called screen.clear. This is used to clear the screen. So if there was something originally on the screen, let's say from a previous playthrough or something, you can use this and that will clear the screen before anything else. Sometimes it's a good thing to add if you've got previous outputs on the screen. And there's another way of filling the background, and that is using an image. So we could find an image online. I have got an image of, I believe, Mario on my computer, so I'm going to set that up. The way that you add images into Pygame Zero is you first have to create a folder for images, so you call it images. It's very important that you call it images. And then inside that image, you could add a file for your background. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to find a file, upload a file from my computer. So let's go in here and I'm going to use a picture of this coin, and that will be my background. Making sure that it's in that image folder. Now, if I wanted to add an image instead of the background color, I could instead write screen.blit, and then I would add the name of the image, and then if I wanted to specify where to put it, I can do that as well. So if I run that, oh, I'm missing a, hang on. There we go. So what I've done here is instead of using a color, I'm putting this coin image onto the screen, and I've told what position to put it at, 0, 0, aka at the top of the screen here. So that's another way that you can add a background. So just to go over again, the two different methods for adding a background is screen.fill or screen.blit. Now, a very important point here is to remember that all images must be saved in a folder, called images. If it's not saved in that folder and you just have it elsewhere, the game is going to crash. It's going to only look for images in an images folder. This is also a pretty good tool in real life. If you have things saved in proper folders for it to be able to find them, this is probably a pretty good setup. Okay, so once you have had a go with changing colors and adding images to your background, let me know. I'm not a big fan of having the coin as a background, so I'm going to change it back to the color. But when you're happy for me to move on, let me know. Okay, when you're happy, guys, just let me know in the comments. Someone's asking what gap. Basically, when I was doing the code previously, I had gaps like this in between the code. It's not necessary. I just like to do it. Hi, just missed a bit what happened. So basically, once we set up our Pygame, we are now adding a background. We've chosen the color of our background using color picker, and now we're just filling the background using background color. An alternative is you can use images by using the code screen.blit, and then the name of the image, so coin, and where you want to put it. So I've got this image here, it's a coin. That's what it looks like. And then I can tell it where I want the coin to be. So that's another option, but I don't want to do that now. Okay. What I'm going to do, lads, is I am going to move on, and then you'll have plenty of time to catch up both in this session and elsewhere, because we're going to be doing some examples with this, so you'll be able to understand it pretty well, I reckon. But you can also watch the recording afterwards if you need to. So, next stage is drawing shapes. We have a background now, which is great, but it's not really much use having a background on our screen if we're not going to do anything. So we're going to show you how to actually add some stuff to the screen. So the shape functions for Pygame are: you can draw a line, you can draw a circle, you can draw a filled circle, you can draw a rectangle, and you can draw a filled rectangle. The difference between the circle and filled circle is, well, one of them is just an outline and one of them is not. The code for these is that you put the position, you put the size, so for rectangle that's X, Y, and for circle that's a radius, and then you define the color as RGB. So I'll give you an example of how you can do that just now. So going back to Replit, I can start to draw. A rectangle. So I am going to first draw a rectangle up on my screen. The first thing I want to do is I want to define the color of my rectangle. So I'm going to call it rectangle color. I want it to be a slightly different color to my background. So I'll use my color picker and I'll choose a completely different color. I'll choose this kind of purpley color here. And that will be the color for my rectangle. So after my background, I am going to use screen.draw. I'll do a filled rectangle. The first thing I need to do is define the rectangle as a shape. So I'm going to write rect, and then inside the brackets here, I'm going to write the X position and the Y position. So let's say I'll put it 50-50, and then the size, so 60, 120. I'm just coming up with these sizes at random, and then the color of my rectangle. So if I run that program, we have ourselves a rectangle. It's at 50-50, so that point there is 50-50 on our screen, and it's 60 by 120 long. And if I wanted to experiment with this, I could experiment with the position. So let's say I wanted to move it at 100 instead. And I want it to be slightly wider, so I could change that to 80. If I rerun the program, as you can see, it's changed the position and it's changed the size. I can also change the color as well. Let's say I don't want any red in that color whatsoever. I just get rid of the red, and it's going to be a greeny bluey color. Like so. There you go. So that's how you do a filled rectangle. You can also do other stuff as well. For example, you can draw, I might try and, there we go. You can also draw a circle, for example. So screen dot draw dot filled circle. And then you want to define the circle position. So let's say I wanted to put it at, I'll do it 50-50 like I did for the other one. And then you need to define the radius of the circle, so I'll make the radius 10. And then you also need to define the color, so I'll make it the same color as the rectangle. If I run this program, oh, I've missed something out there. Oh. There we go. Circle. So we've got 50-50, so it's at the old position. The radius is 10. If I increase the number, I'm obviously going to increase the radius. So let's change it to 30. And then, boom, that is how you can start to build shapes. So you could start to build up a pretty cool looking background. Or you could start to use this to build a maze, for example. I've seen people to use these squares and they've built up a maze for their game. So that's how these shapes work, and they're a pretty useful tool for the game. They're not really useful for like avatars or for, you know, characters in the game. They're more suited for designing the background, but that's what they're there for. So give those a go, try them out. For rectangle, you're using rect, then the color. For circle, you're using position, radius, then the color. If you have any problems, let me know, and when you want to move on, let me know. And I've run out of coffee. Actually, what I'll do as well is I will make this screen a lot longer because you don't really need to see the output. It's good if you see this. So that's rectangle. How do you install Pygame on a Chromebook? what I recommend you do is use this software that we're using right now. This is Replit. It is an online IDE, which means you don't need to download anything. You can run it on your browser. So I'm guessing that Chromebooks have Google Chrome installed as the browser. So what I would do is open up your browser, go into search for Replit. It'll be the first thing that comes up. Make an account and then make a REPL. But when you make your REPL, you want to use the template Pygame rather than the template Python. So that's how I would recommend that you do it there. And that's alrighty. That was the last part of this session, so we are going to move on to something a bit more fun. We're actually going to use what we learnt today and make something a bit more interactive. Alrighty guys, I'm going to move on in just a minute. If anyone's got any questions, oh, even someone said done right as I was speaking, even better. Yep, in a minute I am going to move on. If you've got any questions on what we're doing so far, please put them in the chat. You should also start to see some of the knowledge that we've learned previously start to come together. So things like using functions, which is very important when you're doing GCC. This is a function here. This is a function here. This is a function here. Turns out we've been using functions the entire time, even though we just learned them in the last session. Did you know that print and input are also functions? So yeah, you should start to see a lot of the things that you've been learning come to play here. My plan is for the next few sessions that we will cover a lot of the GCC, but we will do it through making video games. So hopefully it's a lot of learning, but also a lot of fun, or at least that's the plan. But yeah, I am going to move on if there are no further questions. So now that we've learned how to make a background, how to add images to our Pygame, and how to draw some simple shapes, let's actually do something fun with it. Let's do something interactive. So I'm going to get rid of the code that is currently on the screen here, everything up to the title. So I'm going to get rid of everything. I'm probably going to get rid of all these gaps as well so you can actually see everything that I'm doing. So the first game that we're going to make is a background color changer. I think this is quite a cool game. Hopefully you guys agree. But basically what happens is it tracks where your mouse is on the console, on the screen, and the background will change color depending on where your mouse is. So I think it's pretty cool. So we're going to start by defining the variable for the background. So we're going to create a background color variable, and we're just going to set it to black for now. 0, 0, 0. Next, we are going to use our def draw function. Open brackets, close brackets. And we're just going to write screen dot fill background. And currently that's just going to fill our background with the color black. Hang on. That's because I forgot to add a bit. Hang on. That's why you're angry. And now it's happy. Background color is defined as well. Oh, wait. Well, there we go. I have made that mistake so many times. I'm also going to change the title to match the game that we're making. That makes sense. Cool. So, with our very boring background, we would like to change it to be a bit more interesting. We are going to use a function which will track where the mouse is moving. We will go into a bit more detail on what these functions are later on in the series. Just to tell you what they are, they're called event hooks, and they look for events that are happening within your program. So we're going to use this function called def on underscore mouse underscore move, which is pretty self-explanatory. It listens for when the mouse moves. And then inside the brackets, we're going to put an argument, like we did last time, and this argument is called pos, which stands for position. Then we're going to set a variable. It's going to be a global variable, and we're going to set it to be background color. Okay. Next part is we want to pull out the position from whenever our mouse moves, aka we want to work out where the X position and the Y position of our mouse. So we're going to write X, Y equals pos. And that, what it does is it separates the X and Y into two different variables. So the X position and the Y position. Then we're going to set up three variables, one for red, one for green, and one for blue. And then we're going to set the background to change to that color. So I'm going to have three variables, one called R, one called G, and one called B. Should be not a surprise as to why they're called that. For R, we're going to make it 255 times X, so the X position, divided by the width. And that should be capitalized. Some of you may be able to work out how this maths works. For G, we're going to write 255 times Y, and that's going to be divided by the height. And this B for blue is going to be 255 times X plus Y. Oh, not X plus 7, sorry, X plus Y, divided by width. Keeps getting capitalized, plus height. So this calculation basically uses the width and height to work out what color it needs to be. And this color will always be between 0 and 255, which is the maximum for that the red, green, and blue can be. Which is pretty clever, I think. So once you've got those three variables, the last thing you need to do is you need to change background color. So the color that's here, we want to change that to be background color. It's now instead going to be equal to RGB. So every time the mouse moves, we're going to work out where the mouse is, change these three variables R, G, and B to be a color based on where the mouse is, and then we're going to change the background color to match that new location. So if I run that code, and I'm going to make this a wee bit bigger. Hopefully I haven't put any errors in, we'll see. There we go! Depending on where my mouse is in the game, we get either a green colour or a kind of pinky colour. And that's changing based on where I'm moving my mouse, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to leave that code up on the screen there. If you guys want to give it a try, tell me if it works. I'll be really happy if it does. And then, yeah, if you've got any other questions, let me know. while you guys are working on that, I'm just going to quickly add some comments to the code. You don't have to do this, by the way, but just so you can understand what's going on. Mine just stays black. Have I done something wrong? I'm going to guess and say you probably have. I would double make sure that you spelt certain parts correctly, particularly this part here, on mouse move. If this is spelt slightly incorrectly, it's not going to work because this is like a special method, sorry. So that needs to be spelt correctly. I'd also make sure that you've named background color correctly each time. I would check for your spelling mistakes there, Gail, just to make sure everything is correct there. Anyone else? How are we all getting on? Is it working? Is it not working? I think I fixed it, but thank you. Brilliant. I'm so glad that you got it to work. Awesome. Hopefully it should be changing colours as you move your mouse along the console. How is everybody else getting on? Is it working for you guys? Is it not working for you guys? I'd love to hear what's going on. It works! Okay, brilliant! I am so glad it works. Once you get it to work, I find that it is quite fun. It's quite fun to watch your mouse as the colours change. So, yeah, I'm really glad it's working. It's good, but it's missing some colours. You are right. It is missing some colours. It can only really go between pink and, I think green is the other colour it can do. There are ways of changing it. Mainly, it's changing the maths. So for example, if I changed this to be Y and this one to be X, for example, I would get a new set of colours. Let me show you what I mean. Or at least I think in my head it's going to work with new different colours. So for example, I get green and kind of like a green here. If I change this to be times X plus Y, for example, I'm going to get more different colours. I believe. Yep, so I get kind of like a brownie colour and like a greeny colour. So yeah, you can kind of mess around. It's not a perfect colour wheel, but it's pretty fun. But it seems like it's working for everyone, which is brilliant. We've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to quickly wrap up what we've done today. So, yeah, just to wrap up what we've done today, we had a look at the Pygame Zero library, which is a library that allows you to create games, essentially. We have looked at how we can set up a game, create a game background, and add some shapes to the game. Then, once we learned how to do all that, we actually added some interactivity to the game by making a changing colour background. And we will be building up on this knowledge going forward. So going forward, we will be learning stuff from the GCSE computer science whilst making games as we go along. I hope you really enjoyed this session. I've really enjoyed this session. So yeah, that is the end of our session. Before you go, we have a survey. It should be in the description. It should also be in the comments somewhere. It is a survey just to tell us how well we're doing. If there's any improvements that can be made, yep. If you could answer those, that would be great. And I've got a few more minutes, so if you've got any questions on anything we covered today, or just computer science in general, that I'm free to answer your questions for you. But yeah. And yeah, if you got any questions, feel free to ask, because you got about 3 minutes. Oh, there you go. So yeah, if you've got any questions on computer science, the computer science GCSE, Pygame, making video games, Python, anything like that, now would be a perfect time to ask those. But if not, I will see you guys next week. Thank you very much for coming on there. You are very welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So yeah, you got 1 more minute. If you guys have got any questions on anything we covered today, or just computer science in general, feel free to ask. But if not, that will be me signing out for today. Bye, Gail. See you next week.